America was built by immigrants. Many of them came here from Mexico and other Latin countries seeking economic security or political freedom. In the beginning, most left their homelands for border states like California and Texas. Our country's heartland is the new destination, where opportunities flourish, but understanding is sometimes hard to find. Robert Martinez found his future in Arkansas. Thousands more are hoping to do the same.
Qué ricos, mira. Tan sabrosos.
Sí, que también tengo unos buenos aquí.
¿Verdad?
We feel very fortunate to be here. We are very proud of being part of this community because there is no comparison from what I had in the state of Zacatecas, Mexico, to what we have now here. I left my hometown mainly because I was looking for a better way of living, a better opportunity. I didn't see any future in that little town. There were no jobs. To do what my father was doing, just raising few cows and planting corn and beans, and it was, all that we had. There was no industry of any kind. I heard that many or some of the immigrants that came to work in the United States, they were going back to visit their families, and they had money and they had better clothes. And I want something, similar to what they were bringing back. In the process of changing my life, I have learned a great deal. In Superior County, in 1987, we were chosen, we were given the honor of being chosen the Farm Family of the Year. We were very fortunate, to be part of that. Considering ourselves and being new to the community, to be immigrants, and to have received the great honor of being selected to be the Farm Family. When we bought this place, bought about 40 acres of land with 2 old chicken houses, and there was no house in the place, so we bought a mobile home. So we started expanding this farm slowly, by buying this other 40 acres to build the whole farm. From these 40 acres, this farm has grown to 450 acres.
Robert and his wife, Dina, live near DeQueen, a small southwestern Arkansas town of 4,500 residents, close to the Oklahoma border.
Roberto and I have been friends and Dina for good 8 years, I guess, 6, 8 years.
Father Scott Friend is a bilingual Catholic priest whose parish at DeQueen has grown to 90% Hispanic in recent years.
I remember listening to Roberto last year. He spoke at the Chamber of Commerce dinner and talked about his experience of coming up here, and he said something to me that was just truly beautiful. He goes, when I grew up in my small village, and it is a small village because I've been there, and he says, we didn't have TV, we didn't have newspapers, we didn't have radio. All we had was a road. And he goes, on that road, that was our communication, our link with the rest of the world. And he talked about how, when he was a kid, people would come back to the United States and tell all kinds of stories about what it was like here, the streets paved in gold type of thing.
Más o menos puedes. Okay, bueno pues. Entonces, fije, no pensamos.
Similar tales have been told in Walter Unglob's Fayetteville Law Office. He practices immigration law in Arkansas and Texas.
Buenos días, mucho gusto. A la orden. Tome asiento, por favor.
They are strangers in a strange land. They are immigrants. Right? So it's not the land of milk and honey. And actually, some of my clients are quite shocked at that. You know, some of them have grown up. Some of them have grown up hearing that, you know, the streets of America are paved with gold. This is something that goes back centuries as far as immigrants to this country go, and things are not any different now. However, once they get here and once they accept the realities that, for example, rent here is a lot more expensive than it is in a developing country. Utilities are much more expensive, but at least there are utilities.
Jovita Maya left her home in rural Mexico to join her husband Santiago in the United States. They settled in the community of Wicks, outside DeQueen, where he does maintenance work at a poultry plant.
No, pues como quiera.
The way we live in Mexico and the way we live here is totally different. Even though we are poor here, it is much better here because in Mexico, sometimes you earn money and sometimes you lose it. Here, it is a steady paycheck every week. I know I am going to get $200 or around that. My wife, she cooks for everybody. And I don't know how she does it. She makes our food stretch, even when our neighbors come by. We offer them something to eat, and we always have enough.
One of my heroes in the community, in fact, he and his wife, they were both heroes of mine, is Santiago and his wife, Jovita Maya. One of the things about Santiago that I like, Santiago does not read or write. But what he does know how to do, I mean, he's got great wisdom because he's learned to, well, I just think that he's worked hard all his life. He loves God a lot and he loves his family.
Mi vida fue en México, pues.
My life in Mexico was, well, I've been poor all my life. I began to work when I was 10 years old.
Pues, también éramos muy pobres.
I was also real poor. They had me working from the age of 7 in the little town in Guanajuato.
Jovita followed Santiago with both fear and hope.
Pues ellos por lo pronto, ellos sintieron feo.
I feel bad about coming here at first, but we had no other choice. My husband's business had failed, so we have no money for food. He had to go in search of a better life here in order to provide for us. He asked me to come too, so we could be together. I didn't want to leave my family. It was a real hard decision, but I decided to follow him. He told me it was better here and we can be together. So I came here with my children so we could all be together.
Como si hubiera volvido a ver otro mundo nuevo.
When I first brought my family to this house, I felt like I just got married again, except with a family. I felt good about it, having all my family. It was like living in a new world.
There's a lot of love in their house. Their kids are all around it, and you just get a sense that Santiago, in the midst of some really great struggles of trying to do the best for his family, having to leave home, move here, work hard, you know, he's done that because of the love that he has for his family. It's just a great, he and his wife, I just have a lot of respect for because I know that it's not been easy for them, and yet they still remain faithful and they're very joyous.
Pues, primeramente Dios, y después de Dios el Padre Scott.
First, I had to thank the Lord. Then I thank Father Scott because he has drawn and turned a lot of hearts. He's like a magnet that pulls and pulls. When I first came to DeQueen in 1988, I couldn't believe what I saw when I first entered the church. I only saw 3 or 4 people, and I thought, gosh, what are we going to do about this? I was sad, but after a while, thanks to the Lord, Father Scott arrived in DeQueen. A month later, the church was full of people.
And it's just really, more than anything else, just being in love with everybody that I'm working with, and feeling called to serve them as best I can. So, in one sense, that's all just a great mystery, is why you fall in love, and the same thing in a relationship. But in another sense, it just happens to come out of, I think, what God's calling me to do.
A majority of the Hispanic population is Catholic. Norma Sanchez and her husband Israel also feel a strong attachment to St. Barbara's and their priest.
Híjole, pues el Padre Scott es una linda persona.
There are no words to express how we feel about Father Scott. To me, he is a beautiful person. There are not too many people like him in this world. He has helped us through a lot. Through all our problems, he has always come through for us. Not only for us, but for anyone in need.
Both Israel and Norma, they've been through lots of struggles. Israel is an engineer, was an engineer in Mexico. That's what his degree's in, and he's working out at the plant. And to me, and I don't want to, I hate to see that he's got all these talents, and then that he's got a degree and all of that, and yet he's not able to use that. I never hear Israel complain about it or whatever, but he's trying to make the best of what he can. And he represents often what's happened to a lot of folks, why they've come up here to the United States, is because they live in a situation where there's a lot of poverty, there's not a lot of opportunity.
Arkansas's poultry plants are providing many Hispanics with an escape from poverty. The industry has a continuing supply of low-skilled jobs, which local workforces often cannot fill. Israel works at a DeQueen poultry plant, where 40% of the employees are Hispanic.
Pues la compañía es muy buena, ya que nos da.
The company is a very good place to work at because it's the place that's feeding my family. The times I have needed anything from them, they have always come through for me. It bothered me at first when I was doing work unrelated to my studies. My first job in the United States was not in the plant. It was in the fields picking avocados. This was very frustrating to me after so many years of school. It is still difficult, but I am planning to continue my studies in electronics.
Al principio se me hizo muy difícil.
It was very hard for me in the beginning because Durango is a big, beautiful city. Then suddenly finding myself in a small town was very difficult to adapt to at first. But now I am very pleased here. I like it because it is a better environment for my children to grow up in. It's a real peaceful town, and there aren't as many problems for children here as there are in the big cities.
Sheila Gomez counsels hundreds of immigrants in her work for Arkansas's Catholic Diocese of Little Rock.
I have an opportunity to visit with a lot of people and to hear their stories. Because people call the office, people come in, but we go around the state and present workshops on immigration to immigrants. And these workshops are given in Spanish. And we have the opportunity not only to relay information about what is happening in the immigration law, we also talk about discrimination in the workplace. We talk about document abuse. We talk about civil rights and citizenship. So it's an opportunity to relay information to people, but it's also an opportunity to hear, to get feedback from all of from people who have immigrated to Arkansas. And it's a wonderful opportunity to hear, what are their concerns, what's really happening out there, what's going on in the timber industry, what's going on in the poultry industry, what's really happening there in the workplace, what's happening in their families, what problems are they having. And they share that with us. And sometimes it's by questions that they ask during the workshop. Sometimes it's after the workshop. I would say that a common thread that runs through the different stories of people that I come in contact with are one, hope. That is, they come with hope, and I believe that is common to all immigrants who come here. And most people are coming from situations of extreme poverty here in, of the Hispanics who have come to Arkansas. And they come in search of a better life. Now, I don't mean it's a better life of, coming in for handouts. In the Hispanic culture, a better life means I can work, I can be productive, okay? And so there's hope that binds them. There's that their children will have a better future than they had. The large numbers of people who have moved to Arkansas, mainly from Mexico, but also from Central America, and then people who have changed domiciles from, say, California, have moved here to Arkansas from other places. And we have entire families of people who now reside here in Arkansas. Aunts, the uncles, the cousins, so they've become Arkansans.
My name is Pablo Cruz. Huejuquilla El Alto, Jalisco is the name of my town in Mexico. I moved from California. I live in California for 7 years. I live in Salinas for 1 year, and then I moved to Palm Springs. And then I moved to Arkansas. And I would like to live in Arkansas because it's got a lot of trees, looks like my country. I like this country better than California because not too many people are right here. That's why I moved to here, because my family likes to live in a small town. I don't like too much noise. I like towns keeping quiet, not too many people living there. I think it's a pretty good decision to move Arkansas, because the people in Arkansas, they are pretty nice.
Regardless of how they've come here, this group of immigrants have come seeking what they couldn't find at home.
The number one reason why people are here working is because they can't work in Mexico. They can't eat. So somewhere along the line, somebody in that family has made a moral decision. Do I stay here where I can't feed my family, or do I go someplace where I can feed my family and get a job? Immigrants come for the same reason that immigrants came in centuries past, and that is to work, to make a better life for their children.
No. I don't think we have any opportunities, because I come from a little town from Mexico, and we grow in corn in Mexico, and we wait for the water coming down. So sometimes it doesn't happen, and we don't have any corn, and we say, well, we go out of town and forget it. Sometimes we move to Guadalajara or Mexico City. We try to move to big cities, so it's impossible to get a better opportunity, because we are not get a preparation, means we don't go too much time to the school, because we don't have time to learn a lot of different things in Mexico. Most of the time we spend work in the fields, work in the farm. This is what I think it's impossible to get opportunities in Mexico.
In the rural areas of Mexico and throughout Central America, you have relatively poor schools. People basically go maybe to the 6th grade, if that, and then the rest of their life is just toil in agriculture or other manual pursuits, and that's the nature of life, and so nobody worries about it. But the vast majority of people are trapped into that situation, so they don't have education, and when they come up here, they just came to work. So this is where they've come to. This has been the attraction. And at the same time, they've been cut loose, pushed out, encouraged to leave California by overt and, you know, less intentional things. It's just, you know, like Proposition 187 and some of these newer legal mechanisms out there have set up an environment where they're moving on.
California has got too many jobs, so it's got a lot of competition with the jobs, and I'm a little bit old guy, and I can't wear any more pretty hard. Is what I try to relax, take your time, and try to do something easy. Is what I try to put my own business in Arkansas. That's my first time with the own business. I don't know. I try anyway. My job is pretty hard because we work 7 days a week. Me and my family, all the time when the kids they go out of the school, they come to help me. And when they go to the school, we were just me and my wife. Every day we wake up 7 o'clock in the morning, take a breakfast, prepare everything, come to the store, clean them up, start working in the store, wait for the customers.
There's work here, and they're wanted, and then, of course, this sets up the thing, well, we've got all of these people that just flow across the border, and that's creating an attitudinal problem for the local populations, and as it did in California. California, there's a certain group of people in California that wanted them to work there, and yet the people that don't need them don't necessarily want them there. Well, it's, you know, we've got similar circumstance here in Arkansas. And it's not just in Northwest. I mean, you know, it's around the state as well. You've got this new population that is imposing itself on the local population.
I try and deal with the issues that we have, including this one, strictly on a local level. What happens in other places is pretty much immaterial to me in the way we respond to changes. Our biggest change and our biggest challenge is growth, sheer numbers, rather than where they happen to be coming from. How are you all doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Larry, you finding some bargains or selling some?
Well, I'm just along for the ride.
Oh, okay, you're just paying for it. How are you doing? It seems to me like the attitude of the citizens in Rogers has been such that the growth and the demographic shift has been handled very well. There are those that say, well, but in so-and-so, this is what happened, and I've said, I don't care how it happened in so-and-so. This is Rogers, and this is how we choose to deal with it. And that was the fun thing. You'd say, well, I don't need that, but it's such a bargain, I'm going to get one.
I don't accept the fact that just because there have been such problems in other communities that it is preordained that when these changes occur that it's going to result in a violent and difficult clash. I simply don't believe that. And maybe that philosophy helps somewhat.
About 8 or 9 years ago, people in Northwest Arkansas started noticing, and especially in the grocery stores, that they were hearing Spanish. And as more Hispanic people joined us, there came a realization that the community needed a way to provide people who were new to the community with good, accurate information. And that was the first kernel of the beginning of the multicultural centers. And we felt as a group, and this was a very community-wide group decision, that if we turned our backs, if we covered our eyes, if we pretended like we didn't see, we didn't know, we would end up with a polarized community, and we didn't want that. We didn't want people living in barrios not learning anything about us and not learning anything about our culture and not being welcomed into it.
How about you? Where were you born? Mexico.
And do you know about where it is on here? What part?
What place is that in Mexico that
Somewhere,
you were born?
Mexico.
Is that?
See, they only have
Just Mexico.
Somewhere here, around
so right around
A voice of reason emerged by way of Puerto Rico. It was heard by Anglos and Hispanics, both young and old alike.
My name is Alvin Lopez Vargas, and I'm a student relation coordinator for Rogers High School, and I work as a consultant for the city of Rogers.
Hey everybody, this is Papa Rap, and today I want to talk to you about the multicultural changes in Northwest Arkansas. There's a lot of talk about gangs, violence, and tension, but let's talk about the facts. This is Saul. He likes cool cars, cute girls, and a chance for a good future. And this is Sam. He likes cool cars, cute girls, and a chance for a good future too. Their uniforms are different, but they're not. Only people without friends join gangs. Let's be friends. Seamos amigos.
Papa Rap, it's my performing name. I'm a father. Papa is Papa in Spanish, and I'm just a father that does rap music, positive rap music. And that's, you know, I incorporate that into my work every time I can.
What's up? What's up?
We have a club that we created at the school. It's called the Multicultural Club. And then it's Papa Rap and the MCs. Different people from different races just in there, just, you know, having fun and getting along and trying to work together.
What's up? ¿Qué pasa? What's your name? ¿Cómo te llamas? Where you from? ¿De dónde eres? Let's be friends. Seamos amigos.
It's like the song that we do. What's up, ¿Qué pasa? You know, the first thing we do when we meet somebody is we meet the first. Hello, how are you doing? I'm so-and-so. I'll talk about me, you'll talk about you, and we get to know each other. The second step, you know, finding out more about ourselves. You know, well, you're from Mexico. What part of Mexico? Where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? And then things that affect us, concerns.
Are you from New York, LA, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, or DC?
I know that we're making a difference. And we're not saying that, hey, you know, we're not shoving down nobody's throat like we're multicultural issues. No, it's just a natural thing. All we're saying is, hey, changes don't happen overnight. It's going to take time, but what's important is inside.
What's up? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? There we go. Otra vez. What's up? What's up? All right. Give him a hand. All those dancers, valientes.
He's been invaluable to the city in helping us in translations of our materials and of just being an ambassador of goodwill. If a little blip comes up on the screen in one of the neighborhoods or out in the business community or in the school system, Mr. Lopez has a very unique talent in helping people to understand each other.
Let's be friends, seamos amigos. If we can, eventually it's going to happen. And when you see the little kids, you know, playing together and just having fun together, I mean, I think really that if we keep on working on that and keep on sending that message, it's going to happen.
What I've seen in Arkansas has been very proactive. People are taking measures and doing things before something becomes a problem. That's the way I understand the word. And what I see in Arkansas is different from what I've seen in Texas and what I've heard about, say, in Florida or in California, where cross-cultural efforts or efforts at understanding or bridging cultures or something along those lines is not undertaken until there is a problem, until there's a crisis. What I've seen in Arkansas throughout, since I've been back, is people trying to take care of potential problems before they become problems. They're not putting fires out, they're preventing fires.
One potential blaze was snuffed out when people took time to talk and listen. A disagreement between Anglos and Hispanics over noise and late-night congregating in a Rogers neighborhood led to some harsh exchanges. Roland Goicoechea, a Cuban immigrant who's now an area banker, helped mediate the flare-up at Martinez Village.
Well, that first meeting was pretty rough. There were some people that came to that meeting with, I think their only intent is to insult and embarrass the Hispanics, whom apparently they objected to. there. But to the credit of most of the residents of that neighborhood, they stood up for human rights, and they insisted that the business be kept to business, and let it be known that verbal abuses just wouldn't be tolerated.
Martinez villagers Ray and Marie Forehand wanted to be part of the solution.
There were complaints about a little bit of everything to start with, but a lot of them, it was just prejudice. The people were here, and suddenly they were faced with a neighbor on each side, maybe were Mexican, and it just was hard for them to deal with.
At the second meeting that we attended of the Martinez village, the talk at that time was dramatically different. The talk before we started the meeting was that, somewhat mysteriously, most of the problems, if not all of the problems, had disappeared. But towards the end of the meeting, a young man, a young Hispanic who had the courage to show up to the second meeting after the name-calling that went on in the first meeting, asked me to translate this for him. And these aren't my words, these are Jaime Negrete's words, one of the residents that lives at Martinez Village. He simply said, "We're new to your country. We don't know your rules, your regulations, and your laws. Teach me, and I will teach them, and I promise you we will be the best neighbors that you've ever had." I've heard a lot of powerful speakers in my life, but I don't think that I've ever seen words have this type of an effect on a group of people. You could just see the brotherhood begin to occur in that room that night.
We're going uphill in our community. We're making a lot of progress. And I hope that the people who see this will take heart and work towards brotherhood, friendship in their neighborhoods, in their communities.
In a gesture of friendship, the Forehands opened their home to a learning experience with their Hispanic neighbors.
Mother cut the cake. The barber cut.
Very good. Very
Yes.
good. We have two neighbor ladies and one of their brothers-in-law from Lowell, Arkansas, who come on Tuesday nights and Friday nights, and we have ESL, English Second Language class. It isn't a real formal class, but I feel that we're learning. I pick up a few Spanish words too. Another one, wink, W-I-N-K. Do you know what that word means? No. Watch my eyes. That's a wink, okay? That's a new one for your vocabulary.
Reloj.
How do you say that in Spanish? Wink.
Cerrar el ojo. Cerrar.
Cerrar.
El ojo.
El ojo. Okay, thank you. I am so very proud of them for their hard work, their effort, their determination. They are learning. They have ambitions for a better education, and they realize that first they need to learn the English language, and they're working very hard at this, and I'm very proud of them.
Their children are learning English. Their children are learning American laws. Their children are learning American ways, just our philosophy, our points of view, and how things are done in this country. And you'll see it time and time again. The children are being raised as Americans. They're not foreigners.
Well, I don't speak English, so I try because I would like to learn English. I think it's very hard for me to learn English because I'm an old guy. I started 4 years ago to practice English, and my English looks like a Mexican English because it's not very clear. I got 3 kids. One is 11, 7, and the other one is 3 years old. They doing okay. They speak pretty good English, so it's what I'm happy with my kids because I think if they growing up in the United States, if they control his mind, they can do something good for them. My kids, they speak almost perfect English, so not me.
A lot of people say to me, well, I think they should speak English. Well, yeah, it's easier said than done, you know. And I think, well, you know, if you move tomorrow to Mexico, would you speak Spanish in 2 years? Depends on how talented you are. Are you gifted in the area of languages? But I'll tell you, their children are going to speak English, of course. So it just depends, you know, it just takes a while. It just takes a while.
As the Hispanic population in Rogers grows, so has the enrollment in high school Spanish classes. Al Lopez sees multicultural experiences such as the touring Ballet Folklorico as a way to help unite the student body.
We're taking some kids from the Spanish class that are learning Spanish, combining them with kids that are learning English, ESL class, you know, and they're just going to be there together, not making a big thing, you have to sit together and you have to be friends, no, but at least to be able to share together, be able to have one thing in common. We're not the only ones working to make it happen as to work as one as a community, but there's other places already doing it and proving that it can be done. In DeQueen, the Hispanics have been there already for over 10 years, and to see how the community has developed and is working together, it's like, wow, this is great.
This is a good community. We are happy here. We like what we do. And especially we like the people and our neighbors. And we are fortunate, you know, to be in Superior County.
First, I don't feel very good, you know, because it's too quiet. Yeah, but right now, you know, for me it's better, you know. And after many years, you know, I feel comfortable.
To my view, all people here are nice. Nobody's looking at me in the wrong way, not at work or anywhere. They are all good people, different races, but they are all good.
Yeah, we can learn about each other. We can even learn each other's language. We can learn each other's culture, way of doing things. And, you know, your life is much richer and fuller because of it.
Cultural gaps in DeQueen are often bridged at Cossatot Technical College. School president Frank Adams advocates cross-community activities.
The college does take an active role in Mexican holidays like Cinco de Mayo. Now, last year when we participated in this event, there were 700, 800 Anglos and Hispanics that came to a park over a day period. And he found that they all were after the same thing, to enjoy a day, to have some camaraderie, and to understand one another a little better.
Taquitos de carne asada.
Yeah, I'll take them over to my mom. I don't know. Give me 3. One for my mom, one for my dad, and okay.
Pues preséntese por allá en la Sounds Europlex 3930.
DeQueen has learned about dealing with diversity, but it's been a slow process. Mayor Philip Cox.
Yeah, come on in.
The first concerns or complaints, whatever you want to say, that I remember, which was about the time that I took office, about 1988, in certain parts of town, we might get a call from an elderly widow lady that had living there in that particular block, and that maybe there was an old kind of a dilapidated, rundown house, you know, fairly close to it, and there would be 5 or 6 males moving there in one wad, you know, and of course she'd be scared. As the Hispanic people would come to town, and in order to secure employment, well then that's the way they came. There very few families came, you know, intact at one time. When they start getting their families here, then they'd start having, you know, outside parties, you know, cookouts and things, of course, you know, playing the loud music in their, you know, in their trucks, stereos or something. And of course, they always, of course, played Mexican music, you know, and used to get a few complaints on that, mostly not so much on the type music, but just the volume of it, you know. And they'd stay out and, you know, they'd may start at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon and may dig a hole and cook a pig or a goat or something. And, you know, it may go on till 12, 1, 2 o'clock at night. And used to get a few noise complaints. You know, we had to do a little, we had a little noise ordinance, and we had to kind of change it up and make it fit the situation, and we did that. And then they were slaughtering these animals. Of course, that got, you know, everybody's attention right quick, and because but we kind of did a little ordinance on that and got that settled.
People are people, and you know, amongst immigrants, as in any groups of people, there will be people also who are breaking the law, who are involved in things they should not be involved in, and but that's not the group as a whole. We can't judge everyone by a few. And then I think as we interact with newcomers, we get to know, well, why are you here? And all of a sudden they're not the Mexican over there, but that's Jose, my friend.
They're really not that much different than we are if you get right down to the basics, you know. They all want about the same things. They just got a little late start, see, because they were somewhere else where it was kind of hard to get started. You couldn't get started.
Most of of us come from small towns where very little or not industry at all. Many of us come from little villages where we have no electricity or running water. So it is a tremendous change. It's a radical change. We are living behind these little dusty streets, these little neighborhoods. We know everyone. We come to a place where sometimes we are rejected, sometimes we are strangers, and many times we are not accepted. So we have to fight in the way of finding our acceptability.
Roberto and Dina, one of the things that they're trying to do now is to get back to their community. You know, they've gotten a lot, and they're you know, prosperous, and they're successful, and they haven't forgotten the community. They're still trying to work and develop community, and still learning.
it's easier, would be easier just to think that I'm assimilated and I do not belong to that group of immigrants anymore. But the reality is that I'm still an immigrant, even though I'm a United States citizen, and I'm very proud of that. However, I feel that because God has blessed us a lot, that we, or I need to do not forget the people that are coming the same way I did. With the little experience and knowledge that we have here, that we ought to share it and help these immigrants to integrate themselves, to better themselves.
Populous states like California and Texas have handled massive migration for decades.
You're seeing the similar situations occurring in Iowa, Kansas, the Midwestern states, up to and including Minnesota and Wisconsin. It is different in border states. The attitudes towards immigrants is a lot more laissez-faire. It's a lot more, if you will, jaded. One of the benefits that immigrants in Arkansas has is that it's a new thing, that Arkansas hasn't experienced this before. And that, to me, from my point of view, is a plus for everybody, for the immigrants and for Arkansans. There's a novelty to this whole thing that allows for a, if you will, a grace period of understanding and maybe checking each other out as far as cultures and societies.
When you go to Arizona and California, many of the Hispanics out there started, at least, working one farm to the next farm to the next farm. And so they're never at home. They continue to be those people. They never get to be Maria and Jose who goes to my church. That's the difference, and that is the opportunity that we have in our community that a lot of other communities didn't have. And I think of the Hispanic person that's sitting in a rural village somewhere in Mexico who hears the story from a relative or a friend about this wonderful place called DeQueen, Arkansas. And with a tremendous amount of courage and hope, faith, he picks himself up out of the rural village and comes to this area, leaving his family behind.
Por ejemplo, yo cuando se vino mi esposo por primera vez.
To me, it was real hard in the beginning when my husband first left Mexico. He came by himself. I used to wonder, why did he want to leave me? Doesn't he love me anymore? I have never been alone before. I didn't know how to pay the bills. He used to do all of that. What I going to do without him? I said. What really helped me in those days was my daughter Josefina. She did everything for me, but I still cry. Why did he leave me? I wonder about this many times. I told myself I could live with this pain, but when my children started coming here, there was another painful feeling. I thought, does Santiago want to take my children for me too? He's grown up and has experience in life, but my children were just starting their lives. I wonder if they will be safe and what they will do. This was very painful for me.
No, pues, yo la primerita vez que me vine. The first time I left Mexico, it was hard for me too. When I left home, everything went dark. It was nighttime for me. It took me 8 days to get here. When I came, I could not stand the fact that I was not able to speak to my family, to my wife. I didn't make that much money to pay for phone bills. My biggest check in 6 months was $120. The rest were between $80 and $100. I couldn't write to my wife because I don't know how to write. I could perhaps find a friend who can write for me, but I couldn't tell him to write intimate things to my wife. I could not tell him to say I love you or I miss you. This was very hard for me. So were the terrible conditions I was living in at first. We were living like chickens for the first few weeks.
Pues nosotros intentamos que así como ellos van ahorita estudiando.
The future we see for our children, the way we are going right now, they are studying real hard. They have already come a long way in learning the language. We want them to study so they can get a better job than one my husband has. He cannot look for an opportunity to upgrade his job because he doesn't know how to speak English or read. But our children can, so that makes it easier for them. We can see there is hope in the way they are studying. Their future will be better than ours.
The dream of a better life for our children is universal and has been with America since its beginnings. It's no less important for young Walter and Jessica Sanchez than it was for the immigrants who came before them.
I have hopes to grow more in our Catholic faith and to be more involved with my children. When Walter, our son, was born, I felt very happy. For most males in Mexico, having a boy is something special. Well, I wanted my boy to be like me, to be a technician. But when he was 5 years old, my son told me he wanted to be a priest. I did not like this at first, but now that we are closer to the Catholic faith, his dream has become ours.
And I want to be a priest, and I want to study here, and when I grow up, go back to Mexico and come back here and be a citizenship here, everything here that I want to be. Go everywhere like a priest and give them mass.
Jessica, my daughter, she has her own dream to become a teacher. This is what she wants, and we feel real good about that since my wife has been a teacher.
I think it's going to be like, I'm going to stay here until I'm big and stay for being a teacher and be a citizen American.
What I want is to stand behind my children in what they want to become or do, to help them in every way I can. They are everything to us, and the help parents provide to their children is very important for their projects in life.
As much as the Sanchezes want their children to grow up and prosper here, they say they cannot let them forget where they came from.
We talk about our Mexican culture. We don't let that down. We brought books from Mexico so that we can teach our children about the culture. We don't let them forget that. We know growing up here is different from Durango. We are still trying to teach them about the culture, the one they live on and the one they leave behind.
The way I look at it, those kids have an opportunity to keep their heritage, their language, all their culture, and it would be a big mistake from the parents to deny it. I think they ought to help them to keep their tradition, their language, their food, their way of life, because kids can learn easily both languages, both cultures. We can contribute to this culture a lot by bringing and keeping our culture. And I think by keeping this, we enrich the families and we enrich the communities. If we have weak families with very shallow roots and their traditions, we end up having more problems in the families and also in the communities. So the stronger the families are, the stronger the communities can be. I think that I would like to be a full part of the American society. I feel that I am. I want my daughter and my grandkids, to be part of that. However, I still want them to know where they come from, to keep some of the family traditions and some of the values of their own heritage. It would be very sad to know that they don't know who they are, where I came from, or how I got here. I am Mexican American. I will die Mexican American.
Funding for this program was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.